Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Mother Rias, Mother Rias. Is that Mother Rias? Yes, that's her. Hari Bhakta. Is that Hari Bhakta? Yes, Hari Bhakta. Hare Krishna, Hari Bhakta.
Okay. You want to put that harmonium for me then? Good. Thank you so much. You say it today. I got it. Huh? Well, I'll take it in the end book. Okay. Hang on. Okay. You say it's like my sister. She knows it by heart. Oh, yeah. I'll leave it until the end. Yeah. Well, it's been attractive. Do you have any of them? No. Well, you should get some. Old ego book is always relevant. Our constant companion and troublemaker. Good, so maybe we'll start with a little guitar. Put the lips together. Should I sit more? Yes? Okay. Where do we get this from now? Some squeaky noise. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurava Nirvishesha Shunyavare Pashatara Shatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivachari Bhakta Veda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pavanityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivashari Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pavanityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivashari Bhakta Veda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nitagani Bhaniva, Bhaniva, Nitagani Bhaniva. Vitai Gaura Premanande, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Somehow this is very meager sound. Can somebody turn this up a bit more? The sound? Volume? Anybody knows? Where's our sound master there? Is he in this office? God, you know. Sorry, and can somebody take this harmonium away? Is it possible to make this a little louder, or is this again maximum? Yes. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yesterday we had it on maximum. This is maximum? Okay, then we have to be satisfied with that. Okay. Om Agyantimandasya Gyananjalishalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jina Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Stapitam Yena Vittale Swayam upakaramayam nunati swavadantikam. Namam Vishnubhara Krishabhasa.
The channels are visible.
Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pachayane Nivishesha Shunyavari Pasadari Satarine Vanchakapa Juvasha Kripasinvevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Go Bhaktamanda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Actually, I would like to exchange this chair. This rolling is not suitable. Okay, so welcome to our second session, second and last session on this topic of the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. So yesterday we were so many more people, but quite a few people told me that they have services today and can't come and this and that. Never mind, some people may join us on the internet. Good. So we have a couple of people here who were not here yesterday. Yes. So let me just very briefly summarize, because usually my seminars are all very systematic and the first session is always kind of sets the foundation to the next one. But definitely, I'm sure even if you were not here yesterday, you will get something out of it today. I'm sure of that. So let me quickly summarize. Yesterday, we were simply introducing what is the false ego, the most subtle part of the subtle body. Subtle body is mind, intelligence, false ego. False ego basically means we think ourselves to be something which we are not, right? Because what we really are is servant of the servant of the servant, tiny, insignificant, but we think ourselves to be American, German, Indian, man, woman, this, that, so many things. But we are actually eternal soul, one lifetime in this body, one lifetime in that body. And even in one lifetime, we have so many roles we are playing. At home, we play one role. Then in the office, we play another role. At the temple, another role. So, and these roles, we easily identify with them because who remembers? Why do we identify with the roles? Yes, because they give us some sense of importance to be somebody, you know? Yes, this is very deep. I mean, let me share one little thing. I once spoke to a quite senior person who had a very high position. And because I'm a little friends with that person, you know, I was talking, or we were talking. So, and this idea was in the air that this person may have to give up their position. And I just said to that person, well, you know, there is life beyond being ... I'm not going to say what. And then the person said, yeah, all right, but what am I then? And I said, well, Vaishnava, servant, you know. Yeah, all right. Of course, but what am I then? Yes, and I mean, the person is more senior. Was not my position to say anything more than that, so I left it at that. But I was quite surprised, you know, and this after so many years of spiritual practice. We identify so much with these titles and positions, and we can almost fall into an identity crisis, if we, for some reason, have to give them up. And I remember another time I was also speaking to one Mataji, and she had handed over her position. She was the headmaster of a school for many, many years. And she simply came to the point where she wanted to retire and hand over the position. But she also shared with me that it took her quite some time, to find some new identity for herself, Yes, because, these roles, they just become a part of our very identification. And then, if they're somehow taken away from us, we can almost fall into some vacuum there and some crisis or something, Yes. So that's what the false ego does, Yes. So, and then we were also discussing so many other things, but also this one verse from Bhagavad Gita 1858, where Krishna gives us these two choices of action. We can either work in consciousness of him, meaning we understand who we are and we follow his instructions, and then we can very nicely cross over all the different obstacles. Or we can be motivated by the false ego, not hearing Krishna, he's saying, and then we will be lost, Yes. So, and we were pointing out, in the material world, there's this ambitious false ego drive. I want to become this, that, and the other thing, which can also enter our spiritual practice. That, yes, I want to become guru, sannyasi, GBC, worldwide traveling preacher, famous kirtaniya with 50,000 followers, and. But then Vaishnav motivating force should be just wanting to serve, because that is our constitutional position, to serve. So, and it really is, works that way, that if we just give ourselves in service with heart and soul, Paramatma in our heart witnesses our sincerity and purity of heart, and he will open the right opportunities at the right time. And so it really works like that. And we see our first generation Prabhupada disciples, those who are still around, they got that mercy, the blessings of Prabhupada, of the Lord, through their mood of sacrificing themselves, not by studying and getting this certificate and that thing, and okay, now I can give this seminar and that thing. No, which doesn't mean we shouldn't educate ourselves. So it is good to educate ourselves and do a few courses and all that. But it shouldn't be done with this ambitiousness, just collecting the certificates and then I can do it or something, No. But the first generation devotees, they demonstrate this principle very nicely, that they were willing to sacrifice their life for Prabhupada. And that empowered them. That attracted Krishna's merciful glance, and empowerment. And that's why they could and still can do so many things, So that is the secret of success in spiritual life, and not the ambitiousness. And I can't remember if I mentioned this yesterday. I don't think I did. That sometimes we may find ourselves in a situation where we feel, actually, I could do so much more, but somehow the opportunities are not opening up. So that means Krishna thinks we are not qualified enough to handle the success. And therefore, he doesn't let us do it. It's a nice way to see it, because it means if if we would get the opportunity and we would be successful, we probably would get carried away and proud about it. And that's why Krishna protects us from that. And he puts the handbrakes on, you know? I don't know, some of you may have had that situation in life. I definitely experienced this some 25 years ago, something where I felt, God, I could do more, you know, but somehow the opportunities didn't come. And sometimes we get frustrated or impatient or demanded, which I didn't do, but sometimes we see this, you know, well, why can't I give the class and you know. So, but now when I think back of my life, I can definitely see why Krishna put the handbrakes on, because I was just not ready. I needed a bit more purification, and I still do, you know. So proportionally to how much we can handle the successes, Krishna gives the opportunities, you know, and it's a good way to see it, because that's actually what it takes place, you know. So I want to add, before we move to today's topic, I do want to add one other little thing. Of course, yeah, we also touched upon that fact that false ego is not all bad. It also has a good portion to it, you know, that at least it motivates us. And definitely in the beginning stage of our devotional life, the false ego motivation is much more developed than the motivation of simply wanting to serve Krishna, right? And I was saying the example of the temple cars, that they're often not very nicely taken care of. But if it is my car, you know, then, I take nicely care of it and make sure it's in good condition and so on. But yeah, it's actually a good tip that even if it is a temple car, it is good to really put it in one person's charge and create a sense of ownership there. You know, I remember when I was a brahmachari in Sydney 38 years ago, I had my Sankirtan car. It was my car. If anybody wanted to use it, they had to ask me for permission, you know, and I was fully in charge of it. But of course, it belonged to the temple. But then, yeah, then you have the sense of ownership there and you take care of things nicely, you know. But if it doesn't belong to anybody, then it gets usually knocked around, you know. And I was also sharing how Grihastha life is very much dependent on this I, me, and mine. Grihastha needs a sense of ownership, and that makes him responsible. And we can see this. I know some rural communities where nobody owns anything, you know, and the greenhouses are just maintained. It usually attracts people who can't get materially anything happening, or those people who can get something materially happening, they rather do their own thing, you know? Yes. And I mean, you know, when I was freshly married and when we started the preaching there, former Soviet Union in Latvia, we had quite a big setup. And we started immediately a temple shop. We were the first shop in the whole city who had some Indian things, you know, in 89. That was, you know, just communist system falling apart. So, and we very quickly realized if we just pay people a standard maintenance who work there in the shop, they just sit up their time, you know. But if we give them some little, you know, financial interest there, that you get some little percentage, so then they come up with all kinds of ideas. Oh, it's Mother's Day, let's make some gift package here and this and that, you know. Or here the use by date runs out. Okay, let's put it on special. And what else can we have? And you know, so then people get all creative and they get involved because there's this sense of ownership there. You know, it's my project and I'm getting some interest here, you know, some percentage, you know. Yeah, so this is just the way it is, you know, yes. So we have to understand this. So false ego is not all bad, you know, but then gradually, as we progress in Krishna consciousness, as our relationship with Krishna more tangibly manifests in our life, then we should get to this point where wanting to serve Krishna gives us the same motivation, same incentive to serve with heart and soul than as if it's mine, or it should be even more, that we think, ah, my car, yes, okay, but oh, Krishna's car, you know, or Krishna's garden, you know, yeah, that should be a bigger motivation to give everything for that, and at home we just keep things to a minimum, you know, so it should actually transform to that, you know. Yeah, so, but false ego, not only bad. And one other thing I want to mention, that the false ego has, of course, so many effects, but two basic effects. The second one we often don't recognize so easily. So the first one is, of course, that we become proud or arrogant, overconfident. We think I can do it all, and yes, no problems, and we see ourselves as so special and unique and extraordinary. But then there's the other effect, which is opposite, that we are all insecure and mental and full of complexes. And that also comes from the false ego. Yes. And that comes about because, you know, the false ego wants us to look really great, but because of our karma and capacities, we can't live up to the false ego's demands, right? Yes, we can't satisfy the false ego, and we just can't look that great, you know? So, and then we get all mental and insecure, and we have all complexes. So it's interesting to understand that this also comes from the false ego, you know? Let's take an example. Let us imagine we are not such a great singer, but we just wish we could sing just as nicely as everybody else around us, you know, but we just can't live up to the false ego's demands. So then we can either get all mental and insecure and full of complexes, or everybody can sing except me, and oh, I'm all useless, and so on. But with spiritual vision, we understand that Krishna is actually not so impressed with the external offering. He wants the love and devotion, you know, and even though our voice may not be so fantastic, but if we sing with love and devotion, Krishna will nevertheless accept it. He may even be more pleased with that offering than the person who is so musically, you know, inclined, and maybe is proud about it and thinks himself such a great musician or something. So Krishna may not be so attracted to that offering at all, you know. But the false ego really receives the satisfaction from externals. You know, I think we touched upon that. That's why in these modern days, everything is about the externals, you know, but the internals, false ego does not get so much gratification from that. So that's why we tend to neglect the internals, you know. Yes. Yes. Yeah, so yeah, that's interesting to understand that the false ego has so many different facets to it, you know, and even this mentalness, insecurity, complexes, it's also an effect of the false ego, you know. So before we move to the actual topic of today, let me see if anybody has Any questions, comments about what we talked yesterday or just now briefly touched upon? Yes, Prabhu.
What you just said, there's some, I can improve my life. And in the terms of definitely being more knowledgeable, to show the purpose of that. And for this reason, I feel also very what you said, Jesus was people. At the same time, something that habits, you know, to put myself with it. I know that I need that. And at the same time, so I can use try to inspiration from Krishna, and I do this for him, not for very scholar.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well,
later on, otherwise.
so the question for our audience, I'll repeat the question for the audience. So here Prabhu is saying that he is not as scholarly and knowledgeable as he would like to be, and he feels a little insecure about that. So should he push himself and use the false ego to get more knowledgeable, or what to do? Well, there may be different opinions and approaches, but obviously, if we just talk here about the false ego motivation, especially if we've been around for a while, yes, okay, back again, good. Yes, thank you. You know, especially when we are already elderly and we've been around for many years, you know, I would just say, use what you have with devotion, with love.
The battery is yellow, so I don't know why it's not. The battery was there.
Okay, but you are close by. Don't run off, please.
Oh, it's
Okay.
red. Yeah, that means the battery's down. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so my answer would be simply use what you have with love and devotion. Yes, yes. Actually, believe it or not, I'm also not so knowledgeable. I may appear like I am, but I'm not. There's so many things I don't know, so many things I haven't read. And in the beginning of my humble preaching journey, I was also thinking, oh, I have to learn more shlokas. And all right, I did a Bhakti Shastri course, but I forgot already all the verses because it's just not my style to always quote Sanskrit and, So, and I just came to terms with it. So I am what I am, and too bad, and that's what I can offer. And I just concentrate on the things where I have some realizations. Whatever I speak comes from realization from the heart, not from the head. I don't have that much in the head, So, yeah, and I just stopped worrying about it, And I don't mind even in classes, Bhagavatam class, if somebody asks me a question about something I don't know, and I just say, sorry, I don't know. Maybe somebody in the audience can help me out here or something. I don't care about it anymore, I just try to serve with whatever I have, And I definitely think this is the better approach. So if the person is 25 and, okay, get educated, do a few Shastric studies. But I mean, if you have the opportunity, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, but you're doing it. Yes. Yes. So no harm, definitely no harm. Also, if we want to stay brahmachari, we need a mission. We need a mission. Yeah. We have to be absorbed. Otherwise, the mind comes with all kinds of other missions, Yes. Yes. Renounced phase of life, you need absorbed, need a mission, Yes. Which really takes up your whole energy and fills your mind, Yes. But it doesn't have to be Shastric or something. There's so many other missions where we can serve with heart and soul, Yes. Huh? Book distribution. Okay, see, there you go. So you got your mission. But yeah, I mean, when we get older, the body often doesn't go along with it so easily. So it's good to make a switch and turn to some more internal mission rather than standing 8 hours in the street and all that, Yes. Next time I come, we'll do a course or seminar on meeting death with joy. Meeting death with joy. Yes. So we'll keep that for next time. Do we have any other questions before we start the actual topic of today? Yeah.
At the beginning, see the passion, there is channel that at what time it can go on and on and on.
Well, I mean, it's good to pretty early hear about this, and then be introspective and gradually transform our motivation force. And there's always daily, situations which make it very clear. Are we running on false ego motivation, or do we want to serve? Yes. So these situations come up in our life, in our daily life, Yes. That we may want to do some service, but then, somebody else gets it, so we can be all frustrated. Oh, I was scheduled to do this and now I can't. Or we have a position and then we are removed. See, if we want to, let's say we are the head pujari, and then our temple president comes and says, we are thinking maybe somebody else should do the service. So if we simply want to serve, then this will be no issue. Then we will say, okay, fine, all I want to do is serve. And I thought I could serve you in this capacity, but if you have a different suggestion, all right, let me just know, how can I serve? Fine, let somebody else do it. All I want to do is serve. So then this will be no issue to remove somebody from a position. But unfortunately, very often it's not so easy, you know, and people are hanging on to their positions and they don't want to let go. And sometimes, it creates a whole, you know, conflict and politics and this and that. And my God, you know. So, you know, obviously, we have some different motive here. We don't just want to serve, but we hang on to some position. Actually, we can even say that ultimately, as long as we are attached to one particular service, it means there's also some false ego gratification coming along, right? So ideally, we should just be attached to being allowed to serve in whatever capacity Krishna wants us to serve. Yes, that would be best, you know. I mean, even book distribution can be a whole false ego thing, wanting to always be the best distributor. You know, I mean, Germany in the Hurricane days had so many big heroes. Where are they all today? Most of them are not around anymore, you know. And I talked to some of them, and they were saying, yeah, it was a whole false ego thing, you know, yes. You know, and sometimes that competitiveness, it was fierce and with enmity and envy and, you know, people getting up in the middle of the night just to distribute 5 more books to be the #1 and stuff, you know. I mean, yes. Or they're doing nasty things to each other somehow to block each other so that they are the #1. And yeah, yes. So, I mean, that kind of motivation force, that's not going to last for long, you know? Yes. So that's a mode of passion. It starts all looking good and it ends in distress. So sooner or later we have to transform, you know, the motivating force, you know. And it all begins by hearing about it. So we become more conscious. And then, as I mentioned, sheltering relationships, the mentorship topic, is so important in connection with the false ego, you know, because the false ego makes us blind. We ourselves can't see it. We need some well-wishing friend, you know, where we know this person has no other interest except my spiritual journey, even no managerial interest, no financial interest, no emotional interest. You know, just my spiritual journey and development. So we all need such a person in our life, you know, because then if we are in some, you know, some challenge and our false ego is all agitated, only that person can really break through it, you know, and say, hey, it's all right, just cool down and sleep it over and relax, and we'll talk about it tomorrow and so on, you know. But if we don't have such a relationship developed, then in the crisis situation, nobody will be able to tell us anything. Especially the more senior we are, the less there's anybody who can tell us anything, you know. As long as we are young bhakta, there will be somebody who can tell us something, but the more senior we are, the more difficult it gets, that there's somebody who can correct us, you know. Like Vaisheshika Prabhu always says, we live to be corrected. In any stage of life, there's always the next step to move on. There's always something we have to work on ourselves. So if we don't have anybody who can correct us, not a very good situation. That invites stagnation into our life, you know. Then we maintain all our unfavorable tendencies and patterns of behaviors, you know. Yes. Yes.
In that question, mentioning is so central. Because I see, in my life, because so partly mind related close and relationship, because spiritual masters are very busy, very difficult. There are a lot of barriers. So in that situation, don't want to really open your heart and talk to them, and some of those insecurities of yourself.
Yes.
So how to overcome those kind of, when you think that, like you mentioned that you want to do something, that there is a desire, I'm not satisfied with my spiritual life, but then I see, I have these false ego that I have to do this, I have to do that, and that keeps you more responsible for the material life. And then you can give up those things and jump into more spontaneous type of spiritual life.
Yes. Yeah, so the question is, the challenge of actually finding a mentor, accepting a mentor. It all starts with desire. That's why I wrote a whole book about it, because it's such a crucial topic. We have lost so many devotees. I mean, I may have mentioned I'm with the third Diksha Guru. I had 2 before who are not Guru anymore. So all those personalities who could not maintain their sannyasa and Guru position had that thing in common: no sheltering relationships. Yes. We have lost so many devotees. Yeah. So, and if you read this book, you will be convinced from so many angles, that without having a mentor and eventually becoming one to others, we actually cannot make advancement. Yes, that's what it boils down to. And I describe it all. I mean, we cannot go too much now into a different topic. It's a whole 15-hour seminar, the whole mentorship thing. But the idea is, if there is a confidential, trusting relationship, in your life, where this person is my dear, most well-wishing friend, then you will open up. You will reveal your mind. And that person, keeps a regular connection with you and may even also notice that your life is not properly balanced and all this, So we have to establish the trusting relationship before we hit some crisis or some challenge, If we are in a challenge or crisis and then we try and look for somebody, then the false ego gets into our way. Oh no, what will that person think? And if I tell that person, then everybody else will know, and. So, and then we will feel we cannot open our heart to anybody, But if the relationship is already developed, and if there is a developed relationship, the person, I mean, if you're a little perceptive, just looking in people's face, you can see where they're at. Especially when when you know them and you see, they don't look so happy and so on, so then a mentor will approach, hey, what's happening? What's going on in your life? And so on, Yes. So it's just a question of serious, sincere desire and understanding that we need this. Without that, nothing will happen. And if we have that desire, then Paramatma witnesses that and arranges also that we meet the right person at the right time who can serve us in this capacity, Yes. But if the desire is not there, the person may be right in front of our nose and we don't even see it. Yeah. Okay, 6 o'clock. Let me start with today's topic. But no, I mean, it's good because these topics are practical, and this is the main way how I like to be interactive, you know, by discussing and seeing what questions are there and all that. So I find it good to give some time to this. So today I would like to touch upon one really important rule of Vaishnav etiquette, because I was sharing yesterday that Vaishnav etiquette and culture is designed to bring us to this point of Trinada Pisunichena, of being more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. If we were there already spontaneously, then no need for Vaishnav etiquette rules, you know, but because we are not, that's why we need them. So, and because our false ego is so near and dear to us, we like to protect it and defend it. Yes. So, and there is a rule of Vaishnav etiquette that actually a Vaishnava should not defend him or herself. We should defend others, Krishna, Guru, other devotees, if we see that they are not properly treated, but we should not defend ourselves. And if everybody would follow this rule of Vaishnava etiquette, then there would be no need for us to defend ourselves, right? Because surely somebody would step up and say, hey, no, it was not like this, and actually, and so on, you know. But unfortunately, we usually do the opposite. We defend ourselves all the time. But when we see somebody else wrongly treated, we keep quiet. We look the other way. We don't speak up. Or it could damage my relationship, so I'm not going to say anything about that. And it's none of my business, you know. But no, it should be the other way around, you know. Yeah, so we all know eating, sleeping, mating, defending, these 4 animal propensities. We talk a lot about eating, sleeping, mating, that should be kept to a minimum. But we don't talk much about the defending, right? No, we don't. And of course, here in connection with the false ego, we talk about verbal defense, right? Answering back, but, it wasn't like this, and, you know, or finding excuses, blaming others, blaming the external situation. This is always a classic way, a classic mechanism to defend the false ego, right? By blaming others or by blaming the external situation. In other words, we say, everything is okay with me. It's their fault. It's the fault of the situation. It's not my fault. You know, I'm fine. I'm perfect. It's all the others who are at fault. You know, oh, we are very good at that. You know, yeah. So this is a really important thing to actually clearly understand, that we should not defend, especially not towards a senior person or more experienced person, you know. Yes. Defending towards a senior person is completely inappropriate and off, you know. But even towards a junior person, we actually should not defend, actually, you know. But definitely not towards a senior, you know. And there is, you all know Hari Sori Prabhu. Has he ever come here? Not lately. His health is not so good. I usually meet him in Mayapur. Yeah, I know him for many years. So we know he traveled with Prabhupada as secretary. And I often verify different Prabhupada stories with him, you know, that I ask him, or have you heard this story, and so on. Because he hears so many stories Prabhupada said, and before I put them in the books, I always make sure they really took place, you know. So I once asked him, so Prabhu, have you got a story with Prabhupada where you were defending? I need a nice story, you know, for the book. So he sent me this nice story, which I want to share with you. He was traveling with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked him, give me the red folder from the Almirah, from the cupboard. And Harisori Prabhu looks in the cupboard. Prabhupada, there is no red folder. And Prabhupada repeats, give me the red folder. Harisori Prabhu, Prabhupada, I can't see a red folder here. Prabhupada repeats it again. So then Harisori Prabhu says, Prabhupada, you mean the pink folder? And Prabhupada doesn't answer. So Harisori Prabhu gets the folder out, which he thinks is pink, and he gives it to Prabhupada and he says, Prabhupada, it's pink. It's not red. So that's a classic way of wanting to be right, you know? Prabhupada, it's pink, it's not red. I know better. You are wrong, I'm right, you know? And Prabhupada blasted him, you know? He really gave him a whole 10-minute lecture there. So now you have become very expert in defending yourself towards your spiritual master. And you know, he's really hammering him. Yeah, so we have to be careful, you know. And I mean, let's imagine we are being chastised by our guru for something which we did not even do. So what's the right thing to do? Accept it, yes. That's the right thing to do. That we say to ourselves, okay, so many times I was being a nonsense and I didn't get chastised. So now Krishna gives me some chastisement for something I didn't do. So let me accept it as an opportunity to dissolve my false ego. Yes. And it's a challenge. You imagine yourself, you know, getting chastised from your guru, where you always want to look like a good disciple, you know, the false ego. Yeah, it's even more prominent there when guru chastises us than the ashram leader or whatever, you know. If the guru thinks I've done something which I didn't do, you would want to make sure he knows that actually I didn't do it, right? Yeah, so this is a challenge for the false ego, you know. Oh yes, you know, ooh, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, you know. But again, if everybody would follow the etiquette, then surely somebody would step up and say, oh, actually, Marge, it was not quite like this. And actually, this person didn't even do it. And, you know. So then there would not even be any need anyway, you know. Yes, yes. Yeah, so that's the right Vaishnava etiquette, to accept it, to gladly accept it as an opportunity to give up the false ego's demands, you know, and not respond to that, you know, not wanting to look good and right and you know. Also, every time when we're too worried what we look like, what other people think of us, our reputation, it's all false ego stuff, you know, when we are so worried, what will everybody think now, and so on, you know. So yeah, it's very helpful to have that knowledge, you know, that it is the false ego, you know, that almost you can almost feel a physical pain in the heart from the false ego, you know. Yes, yes, but if you are in this situation without knowledge, you can get all bewildered and you don't know what's happening. But if you have the knowledge, you know, okay, here we go. My false ego is crying out for justice and fairness and is worried, what do you look like? And is whispering in our ear, oh, you are right. And actually, this is unfair. And everybody should know that it's not you and all this, you know. So it's a false ego, you know. So it's good to make the diagnose, you know. And then we can deal with it more easily in a Krishna conscious way. And we can get so much benefit, you know, from using these opportunities to let go of the false ego, you know. Because if we want to go back to Godhead, we have to dissolve it. We have to give it up. The ego's demands, they have to be given up, subdued, dissolved, you know. Yes. So, and actually Krishna gives us so many opportunities for this. Almost every day, you know. But usually we do the wrong thing. We do the opposite of what we should be doing. We protect, defend, and I remember once, I'm giving every year this course in Mayapur, you know, and I was discussing this topic for quite at length. And then afterwards, I was speaking to one young bhakta. I can't even remember what the discussion was about. But he immediately started defending, you know. And I said to him, Prabhu, don't defend. You know, we just talked about it. No need to defend. You know, I was saying it in a nice way. But he couldn't even hear me. He just continued defending. Oh, that's how strong this urge is. You know, the false ego pushes the tongue and, oh, you can't even control it. It's just all blurts out, you know. Yeah, that's how strong the false ego pushes us, you know, especially when we are somehow irritated or agitated or the false ego is provoked and oh, it all comes out. Yeah, so that's why it's so important to control the urge of the tongue, you know. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, especially also family relationships. They do give a lot of opportunities for this, you know, husband, wife. I think we mentioned it yesterday. How family life can be a battlefield of false egos. Who is right? Who is wrong? Just see, I told you, didn't I? And it was my idea, by the way. Remember it. You know, all this whole thing about who is right, who is wrong. It's all false ego stuff. Who cares? You know, already a few days or hours later, nobody cares and who was right, who was wrong. You know, and at the latest, at the moment of death, nobody cares who was right, who was wrong. You know, yeah, but you know, false ego, and sometimes hanging on to it for ages. You know, sometimes people keep grudges for 20 years. You know, they just can't forget and let go and move on. You know, they're hanging on to it. Oh, this person did this to me, said that. And they keep these grudges. It's a false ego hanging on to it, crying out for justice. They should not have treated you like this. And boo, you know. Yes. It's an interesting phenomenon, you know, if people can't forget and forgive. And the false ego book is a whole chapter on, you know, forgiveness. And I put some, actually I found them on internet. Sometimes you do find quite helpful things on internet. All kinds of powerful statements of well-known personalities about the importance of forgiveness, of just letting go and move on. That when we can't forgive a person, we actually allow them to continue having their negative effect on us, you know? And that actually to forgive doesn't mean that the activity of the other person is right. No, you know? And you actually forgive for yourself so you can move on, and that you don't give that person the right to further influence your life, because that's what takes place when we can't forget and forgive. We allow that person to further influence our life, you know? Yes, and just this ability to understand, okay, what's done is done, and it's part of the past, you know, and let's just let it be as it is. There must have been some reason why it went this way, you know. So, and to move on, to move on. Sometimes people can't forgive themselves, you know. Let's imagine you did something really, you know, by mistake, run over somebody or something, killed somebody, you know, these things happen. I know one mother, she parked the car, didn't put the handbrake on, the kids were playing, the car ran over the child dead, you know. Yes, so these things do happen, you know. And not easy to forgive yourself, you know. Yes, not easy, you know. Yeah, but we also have to learn that, to just understand. So some karmic thing there. Krishna wanted to teach us some lesson and what to do. Whatever happened, happened. We can't undo it. You know, we have to move on. We have to let go. We have to digest it and truly let go, you know. Yes. Otherwise we can't move forward. You know, it blocks us from moving forward, you know. Yeah, so this happens in many people's lives, also in Krishna consciousness, you know, that we may have experienced something, you know, in the early days of ISKCON, and my God, we just can't let go of it, and, you know, can't understand, okay, it's the growing pains of ISKCON. People were immature, did all kinds of things which were not proper, but my God, we have to move on, you know. I've experienced also so many crazy things, you know, but you have to move on, you know. You're just living in the past and get stuck there and carry all these weights on your legs there, you know, which prevent you from moving forward, you know. Yeah, so it's all the false ego, you know. Our constant companion and troublemaker. It really is, you know. Yes. Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, this is truly why family life is so purifying, because it gives so much opportunities for dissolving the false ego. Yes, it definitely is. I mean, sometimes even mothers tell me how the kids provoke their false egos, you know, all the time, you know. Yes, right. Anybody who has been a mother here knows, you know, that sometimes kids, they really, you know, provoke you, and you have to be cool. You have to, you know, because if you act on false ego platform, then this is contaminating for the child. You know, that's, by the way, why it is also said to actually correct somebody, one should be non-envious. And envy, false ego, they're good friends. They always move around together. False ego is the bigger brother there, you know. false ego is the root cause, and then that leads to envy, Yeah, so we should not correct somebody with this false ego mood, because the best plan, the best correction is contaminated if it is offered with false ego. So even if we find ourselves in a situation where people don't want to hear our great plans, well, maybe we are presenting it with too much false ego. And that's why nobody wants to hear it, because the whole thing is contaminated. If you present it with, I know better and listen to me and boo, yes. I mean, especially if we have a plan, and we are junior, and we want to present it to a senior person, we have to be very careful, very careful, because it's against Vaishnava etiquette to instruct or advise a senior, So if we bring it with too much false ego, boo, it will be completely inappropriate, young bhakta here, having some big plan or something, we have to be very careful. But yeah, let's go back to the correcting, because I'm sure we have all been in situations where we either corrected somebody in a false ego mood, or we got corrected by somebody in a false ego mood, right? I'm sure we have had all this experience. So what does it do? It leaves an ugly feeling. Doesn't matter whether you are correcting in the false ego mood or you are corrected. And this ugly feeling in the heart, that's the contamination from the false ego, So let us imagine we see somebody doing something and we have this urge. I have to tell this person right now, how can you do like this? For sure, it's the false ego. They are pushing us, especially if we can hardly even control our tongue, and we have to say it right now and here and then. So better not to correct in this mood. We have to wait until we cool down. Yes. Even if it means we have to sleep it over 1 night, 2 nights, whatever it takes. Sleeping it over is a good trick, a good tip. Next day, already the world looks different, differently. So just to sleep over it 1 night, yeah, it does already something, But yeah, very important not to correct somebody in a huffy, false ego mood, because it will only contaminate that person's heart. Yes. So, and then I find also very helpful to just, before if we have cooled down, but still there's a little bit of ego there. So then we have this prayerful 2 minutes that we say, oh, please, Krishna, help me to bring this correction in the mood of servant, most well-wishing friend, wanting all success and well-being for this person. So if we have that prayerful mood, then at least for these 2-3 minutes of when we offer the correction, Krishna helps us to let go of our envy and false ego, and we can actually bring that correction in a nice mood, Yeah, so it is uplifting to the person, because that's what we want, Yes, but that we get only if there is no envy and false ego mixed into the correction, Yeah. Yes, so of course, this whole topic of not defending brings us to the importance of tolerance, right? Yes, because tolerance is such an important quality to develop. Yes, it is like the criteria to measure a person's spiritual strength and advancement, and how tolerant the person can be. Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, they always are famous examples. They embody tolerance, you know. Yes, because tolerance means false ego is subdued, dissolved. We are not responding, you know, to the ego's demands, you know. Yes, that's what it means. So tolerance, so important. And I do have a few nice quotes. And since I don't have them in my head, I have this little verse book, which I was also thinking of printing one day. I collected so much nectar over the years, you know. This is my all in all, this verse book. The other day, I was in one community, staying with one family. They had a 4 or 5-year-old boy, and he pinched it. And I didn't notice. And I left the place. And then I flew to another country and, oh, my verse book, where is it? Yes, and then they sent it with express courier, you know. Yeah, that was the first time I lost it. Anyway, let me read something about tolerance. First Canto, 18th chapter, verse 48. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. So, of course, avenge, you know, revenge and defending is slightly different, but then also not so different, because this feeling of revenge, you know, it is actually a mechanism to defend the false ego. I'm going to get back at you. You did this. I'm going to do that to you. And then, you know, yes. So, yeah, even cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. So that's Vaishnav, you know, Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, you know. Or then there is another one. Tolerance means to patiently endure unhappiness, such as that provoked by the insults or negligence of others. This is also a nice definition, because what's pretty challenging for the false ego, what is provoking the false ego, is when we are insulted or when we are neglected. You know, to be neglected can also be pretty painful, you know. Yes, yes. Yes, so to patiently endure that kind of unhappiness which comes from being neglected or insulted. Yeah, yes. And also, yeah, let me make this comment. Of course, when we talk about tolerance, not defending, there is an exception: abuse. You know, so abuse cannot be tolerated. But even there, I dare say the best process for a person in an abusive situation is to reveal your mind to a mentor. And then it's their responsibility to do something, you know, rather than going out there ourselves or something. So that's the better process. But then that person has to do something, you know, and sometimes they don't. And that's when it becomes a problem, you know. Yes. So we do have to defend others in all situations, and definitely in abusive situations, you know. We cannot turn a blind eye to this in the name of tolerance and or something. No, a devotee is being mistreated here, you know? Yes. And we have to defend other devotees, you know? Yes. Yeah. So that's, and no matter, even if we risk our relationship with this person or whatever it may be, no, we have to defend, yes, we have to be willing to stick up our neck in defense of others, Yeah, serious topic, as we know, but we don't want to go more into this topic. But yeah, no, but it's good to make this clear, because sometimes people may get confused and think, oh yeah, tolerance is such an important quality, so just tolerate, yes, no, that is an offense to a Vaishnava, yes, definitely. Yes. So then another very common question that comes up is that people say, well, but when I tolerate, I build up all this negativity in myself, and then I get all angry, and sooner or later I explode or I get sick, and this tolerating doesn't work for me, But let's be clear. There's two different mechanisms. There is suppressing and tolerating. That's the difference. So if we simply suppress the negative feeling, then internally still the ego battle will continue, and the false ego will continue to complain, oh, this shouldn't have happened, and blah, and. That's not what we call tolerance. That's simply suppressing, like putting the cork on the bottle, and then inside the bottle it continues boiling up there, and the whole thing explodes like a pressure cooker, So that's not what we call tolerance. Tolerance means that we dissolve the false ego's demands, and the false ego actually stops, to boil up there, So there's now two tools which we need to cultivate tolerance. Let me see whether you guess them. Can we switch on these lights too? Is there a light switch? Or maybe there, maybe behind you actually. Other one? Yes, good. Okay. Because then I can see your face better. Before it was all a little dark. Yes. So what are the two tools we need to have in order to cultivate true tolerance?
That famous phrase that says, "Tatea no campana, you and me, my Lord, going through so much pain and suffering, but I depended on him."
Yeah, you are going in the right direction. Very true. I like to summarize it like that we need faith in Krishna. And the Shastra is an important part in that, that we know the Shastra, and then we remember the Shastra, and we have that faith. Yeah, that's one important quality we have to have, that we have to have faith in Krishna. That means we can connect our situation with Krishna in the picture, that we see Krishna's hand in it, that we ask ourselves, what is Krishna trying to teach me here? Surely there must be a reason why he is putting me in this situation. Not a blade of grass is moving without him being there. So what am I meant to learn here? And then we also have this mood, actually, I deserve so much worse. But Krishna is so kind. He only gives me one drop of what I really deserve. So if we actually have that vision, then, this inner false ego battle will calm down, right? Yeah, seeing Krishna in the picture. And seeing actually I deserve much worse. But Krishna is very kind. He only gives me a little bit of disturbance here, you know? Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, that's actually what it means to be Krishna conscious, right? That we can see our situation connected with Krishna. And I have observed for many devotees, it's almost impossible when they face some crisis, you know. They may do very nicely every morning their puja to Lord Jagannath, but then when they have some crisis, they can't even see Krishna in the picture. I've seen it many times, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, to actually be Krishna conscious is not such a cheap thing. And it mainly shows in some crisis situations, some calamities, how much we see Krishna in the picture, how much we can connect our situation with Krishna, you know. Yes. So, and then the second one, what is the second quality we need to have? Yes. Yes. Humility, that's what I was looking for. I like to see humility as a primary quality, which manifests in secondary qualities like tolerance, gratitude, patience. You know, they're all connected to humility. A humble person will be tolerant, will be patient, will be grateful. Whereas a proud person will never be grateful for anything and will be always impatient and definitely will not be tolerant. You know, so yes, humility and faith in Krishna. That's what we need to really cultivate true tolerance. And just to shut up and suppress the negative feeling, that will not get us anywhere. You know, that's not tolerance. Let's be clear on that. You know, yes, yes.
Sometimes in our morning we have many people that Kshatriya mood. Kshatriya, that Kshatriya mood doesn't allow to. That he has to function. Sometimes it's good because he has become forceful, but with knowledge and intelligence
Yes.
and maturity. You know,
Yes.
but at the same time, they themselves have to be corrected.
Yes, exactly. And that's why, you know, in previous times, let me repeat for the audience, Prabhu is saying the Kshatriyas, they, you know, have that spirit and so on, and they need to be corrected. Yes, so that's why the Kshatriyas always had an aloof Brahminical advisor, a Chanakya Pandit. That's the important contribution of the Brahmanas. A true Brahmana should not be interested in title, position, and all this, you know. He should be aloof. And that aloofness gives him the power to say what needs to be said, because he's not afraid of losing a position, title, whatever, you know. He's not interested in power and control and all that, you know. So, and every Kshatriya should have sheltering relationships. An aloof Brahminical advisor, you know? Yes. And not only every Kshatriya, everybody should have that person. But especially Kshatriyas, you know, or managers. Yes, very true. Yes. I have some nice quotes in here under H for humility. Yeah, would also be no harm if you can find it. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, we were sitting a bit in darkness here. So hang on. H, holy name. So much about holy name. Where is it? What's that?
What is humility? Srila Prabhupada responded. He said, humility means that you don't depend on your wealth and your education. You don't depend on your family. You don't depend on anybody else, on your insurance, on your money. You depend on Krishna, and that's real humility. I just want to add that in.
Here we have Sanatana Goswami from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Scholars define humility as being when a person, even though possessing all good qualities, considers himself to be completely unqualified, worthless, and unintelligent. When a person, even though possessing all good qualities, considers himself to be completely unqualified, worthless, and unintelligent. Therefore, by his words, activities, and intelligence, it is the duty of a sadhaka to conduct himself in such a way that he will become fixed in humility. An intelligent person should not do anything that is opposed to humility. Humility is a mature stage of prema. Yes. Then I have a few other things here. Bhagavad Gita 13:8-12. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others, but from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. So at the moment of death, who cares how much honor, dishonor we all got, you know? Not important anymore. I have a few other nice things from a book called Japa Meditations, which Danadar Maharaj put together. A person who is spiritually advanced thinks he's not very elevated. For tasting the boundless ocean of devotional service, even a drop of it makes one realize how much more there is to attain and how little one has. This is also very profound, you know, because often we read, you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur considering himself a materialist and all this, and we may think, God, you know, is he just saying it, or is he just faking it, or is he saying it for our benefit or something? But no, you know, a person who has some glimpse into the unlimited realm of devotional life, he realizes whatever he has is nothing compared to the unlimitedness and ever-increasing realm of devotional life. Whereas a neophyte who hasn't even got that insight yet, he thinks he has so much because he hasn't even understood the unlimitedness, you know. And then there's another nice statement in the same book. How to feel humble. Simple. Introspect and be honest. Also a nice meditation. So let me share one more thing. Talking about tolerance, very often people come up with this question. They say, well, yes, don't defend. This is all very nice, maybe amongst devotees, but what about in the material world, you know? People will walk all over us if we don't defend, right? Yes. So, even in dealings in the material world, it is wise to really consider whether it's worth defending, you know? And in this regard, I do want to share a little episode from my own life, which makes this point, that some quite a few years ago, 15 years ago, I got this notice from the German taxation department that I should pay 1,500 euros, which I was not meant to pay. They bluntly ripped me off. But because I was traveling, I didn't get the letter in time to respond to this. I missed my 3 months period where I could have objected, because somebody else accepted the letter, they didn't open it, they didn't inform me, and so I missed my chance. So, and of course, when I got this letter, boo, I was furious. My false ego, oh, how can they, and boo, you know. So I rang up the lady in the taxation department, and of course, immediately we were arguing, and you know, and she just said, well, you can take the matter to court, you missed your 3 months, and that's the only option, and you know. So, and I could immediately feel, I was so disturbed, I could hardly even chant anymore. You know, and the whole thing was just going around and around and around in circles there in my head, you know, which is always a sign that the false ego is at its work. But then, thank God, I remembered this one quote from the Bhagavatam. So sometimes it is helpful to know a bit of Shastra, you know, and because I can't remember it, I wrote it in my book, and that's why I probably remembered, because I wrote it, you know, so the writing helps to remember. So I want to share this with you. This is 4:19:34. The verse goes like this: we should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. Well, definitely I could feel that immediately. So now Prabhupada's purport. Sometimes the saintly or very religious person also has to meet with reversals in life. Such incidents should be taken as providential. Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, one should avoid counteracting such reversals. For the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest regions of material anxiety. Lord Krishna has also advised us in this connection. One should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. So I remembered this, and I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to try and rectify this reversal. I just accept it as Krishna's arrangement. I haven't paid much tax in this lifetime, so maybe I still owe them something. Let them have it. At the moment of death, who cares whether I paid 1,500 euros or not? Nobody cares, you know? Yes. So I just paid it and moved on, you know? But yeah, it took me a few days for the false ego to let go of it, you know, even though my intelligence said, yes, that's the right thing. Thank God Prabhupada so nicely explains it. And I could immediately feel, you know, as soon as I was making plans how to rectify the reversal, I was just so in anxiety, and my whole sadhana was down the drain, you know. But still, false ego was rebelling. Oh, it's not fair. They cheated you. It's Krishna's money. Blah, you know. But yeah, thank God it only took a few days, and then I just got over it and I let go of it and moved on, you know. Yeah, so it's just a nice little, oh, there, I don't see you, Mataji. Why don't you sit there, please? I'm happy that you come, even though in the last 10 minutes, but yeah, so I'm telling this story simply to make this point that even in material situations, we have to be very careful in considering, is it worth it? Is it worth it? You know, sometimes, I mean, you imagine I would have taken the matter to court. My God, you know, oh, big entanglement, and then no guarantee that I win the case. And oh, no, forget it. Yeah, so, but sometimes devotees, they make the wrong decisions and they entangle themselves in so many battles there, you know. And yes, so again, mentorship. We have to ask for guidance, you know, because we may be so agitated. Oh, I have to fight against this, blah, you know. But then no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, you know. Yes, and of course the argument is, but Prabhupada fought so many court cases. Well, Prabhupada defended Krishna. He didn't defend himself. He defended Krishna. That's a whole different story, you know. Yes, and even the nice story with Sakshi Gopal, which we saw so often in Bangladesh as a drama, right? You remember the whole story. We don't have time to tell it, but the essence is, you know, that the old Brahmana promises the young Brahmana his daughter in marriage in front of Sakshi Gopal Devi, and then the relatives, they're not agreeing, you know. But that young Brahmana, his main concern was to actually save the old Brahmana's promise, which he made in front of the deities. And that's why he you know, tried to get justice, not for his own good, but for the sake of, you know, how can this Brahmana make a promise in front of Sakshi Gopal and then break it? He will go to hell. What is this? You know? So, and that's why Sakshi Gopal agreed to walk along behind him to the village and be the witness. You know? If that young Brahmana would have just fought an ego battle here, of course, Krishna would not have agreed to walk behind him, right? But because his motive was pure, he was concerned about the fact that this Brahmana made a promise in front of the deities, you know, and this would lead to degradation if you promise something and you break it just because the relatives don't like it or what, you know. Yes. So, yeah. So, we, you know, that's Prabhupada's situation. He was fighting for the sake of Krishna and Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, you know, and not for his own right here or something, you know. Yeah, so, and externally, we may look like the loser. Actually, you know, Gopish Prabhu from New Vrindavan, Prabhupada disciple, he was my editor in this book, you know. Yes, and when he edited that chapter where I'm sharing the story, he was writing, oh my God, this is another heart surgery. And by the way, I probably wouldn't have paid the 1,500 euros. You know? So yes, I mean, we may look like the loser, but no, ultimately we are the winner at the moment of death. We are the winner because we had enough practice to let go of our false ego, and then we make it back to God, you know. Whereas externally we may look like the winner by fighting and you know, but not at the moment of death, you know. Yes. And another interesting thing is, you know, we said tolerance is such an important quality, you know, in spiritual practice, but with mundane eyes, tolerance is seen to be weakness. Yes, yes, you're a loser. What? You tolerate that? I wouldn't tolerate that. Who am I to, you know, go along with this nonsense? I'm going to walk out. I get divorced. Ooh, you know, we hear it all the time. That's the mundane vision of things. Yes, let's not get mixed up here, you know. But from a spiritual point of view, tolerance is strength. Yes, yes, yes. So we can really say there's Bhagavad Gita 269, you know, what is day to the common person is night to the introspective sage. This day-night principle accompanies us throughout all aspects of Krishna consciousness. What is success for a spiritualist is seen to be a loser in weakness from material point of view, and vice versa. What is success for material life may very well be an obstacle to spiritual life. Let's be clear in that. Yes. You know, because so often we think, oh, whatever is success out there, yes, let's invite it, it's success. No, let's look a little deeper, you know. Yes, yes. And usually it's like that. What is success out there is a failure in spiritual life, or an obstacle. Yes, unwanted. You know, all these qualities, chastity, shyness. Prabhupada talks about it all, how important these qualities are. But from a material point of view, chastity, what's that? I remember once many years ago in Australia, I was sitting next to a newcomer during the Sunday Feast Prasadam. And she asked the typical questions, you know, why we cover the head, this, that. So, and I mentioned chastity, and she said, chastity? What's that? You know, with 1,000 question marks in her face. And it was not that she didn't speak English. English was the only language she spoke, you know. But nobody talks about chastity. It's completely old-fashioned, you know, and something from the Middle Ages or something, you know. Yes, yes. So it's seen as you have to go to a psychiatrist. You're shy, you're chaste. Something is wrong with you. You don't know how to show off, and you know, yes, yes. So let's be clear in this, you know, yes. Otherwise we get all mixed up, and we invite so many elements in our spiritual life which are not conducive to spiritual progress. Yes, very important. Any concluding question about tolerance? Letting go of the false ego, not defending.
Most of the topic about ego, in our scriptures, we have many different stories and how to apply it, but it's difficult to application. So I was thinking that your book, that the mentor, sounds like the solution, because even someone who thinks is advanced or not versus both and chant ground, how sadhana, still we need a mentor.
Exactly.
Mentor.
Yes.
Because even you, let's say, you know, of respect, even your book, I can read it. Oh yeah, but I still don't take the mentor.
Well, then you didn't read it properly.
So sometimes even for the bodies of the world, the guru is there, but the guru is not physically present here.
Exactly. Exactly. Or they have thousands of disciples, you know. Yes. Yes. And when the guru is here, we show ourselves from our best side, and we serve here at Mangaladi and everything. And then as soon as he's gone, we are something else, you know. Yeah. And I mean, I think I mentioned it maybe yesterday. I always like to refer to Bharat Maharaj in the Bhagavatam. He was on the level of Bhava. And his problem was he didn't have a mentor. And that's why even on the level of Bhava, where you feel transcendental emotions, they can turn back into material attachments for a deer. You know? Yes, yes. I mean, when you read it in the Bhagavatam, you think he went a little nuts, you know, having the deer on his chest, embracing it at night, kissing it. My God, you know. Yes. So, but even on the level of Bhava, this can happen. Yes. With a deer, what to speak of a woman, you know? Yes. So, and his problem was he didn't have a mentor, somebody who would tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, enough now with the deer, let the deer go and go back to your sadhana. You know, he got just carried away, you know, even on the level of Baba. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
They also one step further. They said to the Prabhupada, and you said, I listened to his tapes. It sounded like a preaching. And it failed just to avoid it.
Yeah, very true. I come across this a lot, that people say, oh, I have Prabhupada, you know, but yet Prabhupada cannot come and pull you the ear, you know, and slap you, you know. No, no, yeah. Yeah, this mentorship. And I mean, there is a powerful quote on the back, which I do want to share with you since you brought up the point. This is from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur from Amritavani, that nice book, Amritavani. So it says there, one who gives personal instruction to each and everyone does more for others than the platform speakers do. Platform speaker meaning a person who gives a lecture. Generally, whatever platform speakers say cannot solve the problem of everyone in the audience, nor can it always benefit every individual. A person's defects are better rectified in a private tutorial class or private coaching than in hearing lectures in a school or college. Therefore, those who instruct particular persons separately can award them something more permanent. Isn't it? Yeah, when I read this quote, I was dancing in ecstasy. Here it is, black and white, you know? And I feel we have not understood this yet. I hope and pray for the day where mentorship will just become as important as accepting a Diksha Guru. Yes. Yes.
And then he told them both of them. And he said, you know, like, can you tell all the good things of it? And then the other one, that was a practical application.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about some practical application here.
Yes.
Especially if you hear, you know, we know Shastra, you know, stories,
Yes.
the lecture,
Yes.
tips.
Yes. Well, don't defend. Let's follow the version of etiquette. And I mean, I do have 5 very practical steps, but it's 7 o'clock. And they are in the False Ego book and also in this book, because here the chapter is on envy in there, you know? Yes, and I'm mentioning there the 5 steps. So I think I leave you at, how do you say? At, what's the word? Suspense, yes. And if you want to know the 5 steps, you have to get the book. And read it from cover to cover, and not just flicking through where are the 5 steps. Yeah, because I mean, the books are all 15-hour courses, and the way I work is very systematic, you know? So best, you get the best transformation if you really read it from cover to cover and not just flick through and pick out a few raisins there, which sound interesting or something, you know? Yes. Now, I mean, I hope, and I hope I'm not saying this out of false ego, thinking that my books are so special. But no, I just feel such an urgency to get these topics out, you know, all of them, you know. Yes. Yeah, so please get them, give them to devotees as gifts. There's always birthdays and so many things, so give them a book. Also, the first book has saved so many marriages already. Yes, people give me these feedbacks, you know. Sometimes they put huge donations in my account, even though I've never met them. you know. And then they say, this book has saved my marriage, you know. Yes, I had it a few times. Yes, because we women are very powerful. Our Shakti, you know, we have the power to make things work. You know, if we use the Shakti in the right way to empower the man rather than competing. This is what's happening, that we women compete with the men, and that's what makes them weak, you know, and frustrated, because they need that energy to be empowered. It's quite fascinating, you know, Krishna's whole system, how it all is meant to fit together, you know, that not only we women need to be protected, but also the men need that feminine energy to be empowered. And Prabhupada says in one purport that this is why the, you know, in former times, the kings had several wives, not only one. I was for many years wondering about this. You know, were they so lusty and they couldn't be satisfied with one? No, it's the energetic thing. There were such heroic kings ruling the whole world that the feminine energy of one woman was not enough, one wife. So that's why they had several, and they were zapping up all that energy and hoo-hoo, being the heroic leader there, you know. Yes. So, wow. Interesting. Yes. Yes. So yeah. Yeah. So in all the books you find some interesting things. Whoever is married, this one is also, there's a lot of interesting things in there. You know, especially also finally I took the courage to talk about, you know, things which people don't address much. Physical intimacy in married life. There's so much confusion about this, which often breaks up marriages. Probably it will make me controversial, but I don't care, you know. I don't care. I've come across so many destroyed marriages because things were not applied in a mature and balanced way, you know. And I feel somebody has to try and say something, you know. Yeah, so yeah, and I found a few interesting quotes of Prabhupada, which not so many people have heard. And they're all surprised. What, Prabhupada said that? You know, yes. I mean, one little story I can tell, which is not so surprising, but it's amusing. There was one Prabhupada disciple, he had been a brahmachari for many years, and he got married. And Prabhupada asked him, so is your wife happy? And he said, not so much. And Prabhupada said, you have to show her more affection. You must kiss her. Yes. You must kiss her. So Prabhupada could see, you know, a fellow who's been, you know, 15 years brahmachari, he's on some fanatic trip there, no hugs, no kisses. And the poor wife, she's all emotionally starving, you know, and neglected. You must kiss her, you know. I mean, not so many people have heard this story. Actually, Malati mentioned this story to me. And I asked her, can I put it in the book with your name? She said, yes, go for it. And there's a few more hilarious, outrageous stories, you know. Yes. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we just, and this also is connected with the fact that the Vanaprastha ashram is not established. And that's why we often take elements from the Vanaprastha ashram and we think this should be in the Grihastha ashram, because we think this is the last ashram, you know. But if it's clear that after married life is another ashram, and Prabhupada emphasizes again and again, and this will be my next book, the Vanaprastha ashram. Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam mentions it again and again. Vanaprastha, no more sex life. Vanaprastha, no more sex life. Again and again. So why would he mention this if the only accepted standard is sex life only for procreation? Then no need to even say this, because when you're 50, you don't want to have any more babies anyway, right? You know? So yes, yes. So Vanapasta, that's so now finished with the hugs and kisses. Now we had enough hugs and kisses. And, and let's move on, Yes, yes, yes. Or people say, yes, we get married, but no children. We want to travel and preach. Hey, that's the next ashram. That's the Vanapasta ashram. Yes, people are all mixed up. Yes, yes, yes. But Grihastha life, as a rule, there should be children because when man and woman live together, there's sex life, there's children. So that requires steadiness, regulated life. Children need rituals, regulations, and, be regulated and all that, So there's no question of traveling and preaching with small kids or what, Not good for small children at all, Yeah, but there's so much confusion about all these things. Yes, so whoever has a wife, you must kiss her, at least when you're in the beginning. Okay, so yes, if anybody wants some books, please come up and let me know. Okay, so tomorrow we do have a house program at, what's her name? Nandini Radhamataji, yeah, and we'll talk about envy. And we'll start at 11 with Kirtan, 12 o'clock. We break the fast. I hope she doesn't mind if I invite everybody here. And then we have a whole topic on envy, how envy manifests towards seniors equals juniors. We discuss one verse from the Bhagavatam. Quite a bit of a heart surgery. We realized, oh my God, I'm actually envious. I do this. Yes, that's me. We're so expert in sweeping these things under the carpet and pretending it's not relevant for us, So that will be the topic tomorrow. Okay, so you please notify her. Okay. How many people? 40. Okay, wow, that sounds like a good crowd. I better bring some books along. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo, Hare Krishna.
They were in my photograph that